On. Shalom, family. It's good to see you all. We're going to talk about how even behind bars, Derek Chauvin is getting a lot of privilege. And, a lot of people are believing he's going to be in Gen Pop. He's not going to be in Gen Pop at all, although he deserved to be there. He deserves to be there, period. But they are sheltering and protecting him even though he don't deserve it. So I want y'all to think back to when he got arrested about a year ago. When he got arrested, remember, they got all of the black COs off of the floor he was on, and it was only white COs there protecting him. So that should tell you right there. Their intention was to always give him privileges that no other prisoner would get. So this is where he's supposed to remain. Apparently, this is a permanent thing with him being separated from Gen Pop. Oh, man. Well, let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. We shouldn't be surprised about what they go above and beyond for people like Derek Chauvin, but they sure don't do that for anyone else. And I'm glad someone posted Muhammad Noor. Yeah, they didn't do that for him. He sure didn't get to exercise I feared for my life. They didn't let him get away with that, right? People are full of crap. Okay. So please give me a 1 if you can see my screen, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Well, Robin Cooper, actually, he probably won't go crazy there. He is segregated along with 341 other white inmates. So he's far from the only one in segregation. And I just wonder, what are the backgrounds of these other inmates that are there with them? So it's supposed to be 351 segregated inmates. And he's one of them. So it's not like solitary confinement where he would be by himself. It's not like that. All right. So let's get started, y'all. Okay. So this came out on Yahoo News, June 28th, 2021. Derek Chauvin will remain in a segregated unit at a maximum security prison post-sentencing. So this segregated unit has 351 inmates that are not part of Gen Pop. So he's not going to ever be in general population. I know a lot of people wish he was, because, he might meet up with Tyrone, and Tyrone might have his black knee to put on his neck. See, that's what they're trying to avoid. They don't want one of them black inmates getting a hold of him and putting their black knee on his neck. That's what they're doing. All right, y'all. Let's get started. Derek Chauvin will remain in a segregation unit at maximum security prison for the time being, the Minnesota Department of Correction said. Now, I saw another article that said he would be there permanently, y'all. So Chauvin, 45, was sentenced on Friday, we know, to 22 and a half years in prison for the murder of George Floyd. He has been held at the Minnesota Correctional Facility. Now, over that period, it's not going to be unusual for him to be moved somewhere else. He may not remain in Minnesota for his full sentencing, because they're always moving these prisoners around. He's there for the time being. Okay, and this facility is located at Oak Park Heights, where he is living apart from general population of the prison. The administration control unit said a jury found him guilty in April of murdering George Floyd. Typically, after a sentence hearing in Minnesota, male inmates are brought to the Minnesota Correctional Facility at St. Cloud, a lower security facility where they are booked and assessed. Their photos and fingerprints are taken and they are given an evaluation before being sent to a more permanent housing assignment. A DOC spokesperson told Insider Chauvin was already being held at Oak Park Heights before the sentencing hearing, and so you would not go through the intake process. So they had him put in place before the sentencing. Okay, he was at Oak Park Heights for his safety pre-sentencing, a spokesperson said. Since he was already at Oak Park Heights and was going to stay there, it would not have made sense for him to be taken up to St. Cloud. All right, so Oak Park Heights is currently housing 341 inmates, just under 40% of whom identify as white, according to the prison data. Of those prisoners, 276 are serving sentences for homicide. Shoot, they got some violent ass people up in there. 276 are serving sentences for homicides. Damn. Chauvin was convicted of killing Floyd by kneeling on his neck for about 9 minutes as he begged for his life. He is sentenced to 22 and a half years, is higher than the average of 12.5 years, which is higher than average for, the offense that he was charged with. A judge found that aggravating factors at the time of Floyd's death called for the upward departure from sentencing guidelines. Minnesota inmates must serve a minimum of 2/3 of their sentence, meaning Chauvin could be released in 15 years. Now, didn't we all say he was never going to do those 22 and a half years? We said it. Now, he still is being brought up on tax evasion, and he is maybe looking at more additional charges because some of you might have heard he choked out a 14-year-old. And now that case is being reopened by the state. So they are investigating that case. So he may get additional charges on him. But as far as what he did to George Floyd, he has to do at least 15 years. And you can best believe he is never going to do what he was sentenced for, the 22 and a half. I'm just telling y'all, I don't believe he's going to do that full 22 and a half. They go above and beyond for people like him in the country, even when they don't deserve it. They do. Negotiations teetering on collapse. Excessive force suits of the same crime. A judge found that aggravating tractors at the time of Floyd's death called for an upward departure from sentencing guidelines. So all he got to do technically right now, unless he gets additional charges, is 15 years. Now, he and his lawyer are in negotiation for the civil rights part of the sentencing. So who knows? He may not get anything for violating George Floyd's civil rights. I know that's what they are trying to do a plea deal for right now. Or he could get an additional few years. We shall see. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they are coddling this man. How many black inmates go to jail and they get segregated and put it in, as far as I'm concerned, that's a protective area that they got him in. And he doesn't have to see anybody in Gen Pop. He probably hasn't seen anyone in Gen Pop since he's been behind bars, y'all. I don't believe he has. Thank you, Fluid J Funk, for the super chat. Looking at his mugshot, he looks quite content there. No more fun for him at the weekend. You're right. Just porridge without oats. The food there will break him. Yeah, you're right. That prison food is lousy. They don't care what they feed you once you're behind bars. Yeah, we know the DOJ don't look out for us, y'all. They don't. They don't look out for us. They don't have no reputation of looking out for us when it comes down to any crimes against people in the Black community. They don't have our best interests at heart. They never have, they never will. Yeah, Prince of Judah 79, that's what I'm saying. They're just protecting him and keeping him sheltered while he's in there. But why should he be sheltered? He should be with the other hardened criminals, just like himself, because that's what he is. You murdered someone. It's not supposed to be a Holiday Inn. It's prison. But we see them doing many things for him that they don't do for other people that get locked up. Hold on. CH464, he better make sure he doesn't drop the soda. Yeah, you're right. Is he going to be bootsy popping on a handstand? Then we'll see how he feels crying out to his mother. Well, yeah, his mother sound ridiculous. I watched some of the videos on that, but that was ridiculous for her to talk about he was a good person. No, we saw a demon leaning on the neck of a Black man. We didn't see this good person that she was trying to describe to everybody. But that just goes to show you, you know, his mother, who taught him all that white supremacist stuff? Chances are his mother. And if you look at her, she looked just like him. She just got all that dog fur going down her back, but she looked just like him. I don't believe he'll be safe there. He won't be safe, but while he's segregated, chances are he will be safe. As long as he's in that. And I would imagine if they're segregated, they probably don't even go to the prison yard at the same time as the inmates do from Gen Pop. They probably have that all segregated too, along with their meals are segregated. So, I'm sure they got it all planned out, but you're right. I don't see why he's got to be segregated. You bold enough to get out there and kill a man for no reason, I don't believe you deserve any protection behind bars. Yeah. The humble Onez, you're right. He had 18 complaints. And see, they conveniently ignored those complaints until he actually murdered someone. Then they couldn't ignore it no more. That's why I just kind of chuckled during the trial when those cops got up and testified against him. Well, if you knew all of this stuff about him, which they did, there's no way they didn't know. Why didn't any of you come forward? Like we always say, where were the good cops? Where were the alleged good cops? How come whenever these things are happening, there's no good cop to be found? That's why I never say they are good ones. In order for you to even be a Black cop, you got to be ignoring a lot of stuff around you to even survive in that job. So, even if you're a Black cop, I can't really call you a good cop. I still can't do it. Believe me, nobody wants to see Derek Chauvin go down more than me. Let me tell you, nobody wants that. Yeah, but you know what, Lily Rice, he could be moved. They move inmates in this country all the time, all the time. So just because he's in this facility for now in segregation, that doesn't mean in the next couple of years he won't be moved somewhere else. He could be moved somewhere else. Well, I mean, look at where he is. He's in a segregated unit with white inmates. Anything can happen. You know, some of them inmates can turn on him. You know, things don't go so well for a cop behind bars, you know, because he's got to look at people that he actually arrested and put behind bars. And I'm sure some of them are in that facility in Minnesota where he is, you know, and he did not have to arrest all black people. Some of them white inmates he probably arrested too. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. You know how they did it back in the day? They'll put a pillowcase over his head so he can't see who's kicking his ass. That's what they'll do. And remember, just because there's some big shit outside of the prison, that don't mean they're a big deal in the prison. If y'all remember when John Gotti went to jail, they told him, you were a crime boss out there, and here you ain't shit. In fact, it was the air. Go back and look, y'all. It was the Aryan Nation that paid a black inmate to beat his ass, and that black inmate beat the hell out of John Gotti. Beat the hell out of him behind bars. You know? So that don't mean because he's with white inmates, he's going to be safe. You know, because I remember John Gotti believed he was going to be safe, and he wasn't. He got his ass torn out up in there. And then on top of that, shortly after all of that happened, he had, I believe, mouth cancer. So that was a slow, painful death for that man. Mm-hmm. So the Aryan Nation did not protect him. They pretty much pushed him out there, and he was vulnerable. Oh, John Gotti, they did all. Let me tell you, they would not let him have a funeral at a Catholic church. He was a Catholic, and when he died, they were trying to get his funeral done at a Catholic church. All of the churches told his family no. He could not be funeralized in a Catholic church, so he wasn't. And on top of that, they also had a hard time finding a cemetery that would bury him. There were so many people against him at the time when he died. And he is in a vault, a wall vault, you know, where they put some people that are not buried in the ground. That's where he is. He never did get buried in the ground, and he never did get a proper funeral because no Catholic priest in New York at that time would funeralize him. They wouldn't do it. And I remember her, I think Victoria Gotti, his daughter, was all upset and crying all on TV about that. The fact that, you know, no church would do his funeral. She was boo-hooing and crying all over the place over that. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, just because they're a big deal outside of the prison, that don't mean they're going to be held in that same regard in the prison, especially a cop. A cop is always in danger when they go behind bars. They're always in danger. Yeah, a lot of them should be. Right. He has none of your business. You're right. His daughter is named Victoria, and his wife was named Victoria. And I don't know if you probably heard, but I heard he used to beat the shit out of his wife. Back in the day, I would hear about those things that he would beat the crap out of that woman. And he didn't have money like that, y'all. If you go back and look, even what was the name of that show that his daughter was on? Something Gotti, something. Well, I don't know. It was a maybe it's got to be well over 10 years ago. And she was talking about on that show how whenever John Gotti went to jail, they had to go on welfare. She said that they didn't give money like that, like you see in the movies where all these mafia guys splitting up this big ass money. She said it was not like that at all. Every time her father went to jail, they had to go on welfare. Okay. They had to go on welfare. So she said, no, they don't have money like that. That's all only stuff they show you in the movies. But in reality, nobody took care of that family every time he went to jail. Nobody took care of the family. The mother had to go and keep applying for welfare. So, these folks, they always want to tell lies about everything or make everything seem bigger than life. But the reality is they don't have it like that in that mafia. Some do, but the vast majority of they don't have no money like that, y'all. But whenever they want to show us a movie, they always got all this big money and make it seem like they're millionaires, and that's really not the case at all. Yes, Tanya, I did hear about that. I saw it on a video this morning about the Oakland. Yeah, the black police chief was upset because they got defunded. I did see that. I did see that. Jet Black, they've always been on welfare more than us. That's one of their big lies they've been telling all throughout the decades. They've always been on welfare more than the black community, and that's a fact. And they did not have all the stipulations that black women had when they went on there. Remember, your man couldn't be in the house, but any other group, Mexicans, whites, Asians, any of them go on welfare, they can have their man at the house. That's not a big deal. They just didn't want your black man at the house. So no, we never was on that mess like them. Yeah, Strawberry 32. A lot of people believe that until you start really looking at it, or you'll listen to people that been around them, and they'll tell you they don't always have the mafia don't always have no money flowing like that. They don't. But if you watch the movies, they got you believing that they all the made guys are millionaires, and that's not true. John Gotti was a made man, and his family had to keep going on welfare every time he got arrested, and he was a made man. Okay, so what does that tell you? That's why I hate when I see our brothers try to take on the mafia names and try to and talk about, oh yeah, the mob. They really don't know what they're talking about. You shouldn't be taking on none of their names or none of their ways. You shouldn't be doing none of that mess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, the Gambino family lived here, and many of the members lived here in New Jersey. They lived in a town called Cherry Hill. That's where they used to live. And they were there for many years. I knew a woman that used to work as a maid for them, and she got paid under the table. And she was telling me, they told her, when you come here, you didn't see nothing, and you're not going, and don't ever go outside of this house talking about us. So she never did. She just went to work. They paid her under the table, and she just never spoke about them. But they lived right here in New Jersey, the Gambinos. In fact, I don't live too far away from where they live. I could probably get over there in like 20 minutes by car. So they really was not that far away. Yeah, they live over there in Cherry Hill. They were there for many, many years. Yeah, yeah, he was yeah, he loved being in front of the camera, and that was really one of his biggest downfalls. Mhm. You would be surprised. I mean, look, I worked, y'all, with several white people throughout my career, and they were on welfare. And they told me how when they were growing up, they were on welfare. And I worked with several of them, and they were all white. I'm not saying black people. Of course, black people were on welfare because you make sure you keep us in an oppressive state. So I understand why we're on welfare, but why are they on welfare? Okay, when you got every unearned advantage at your fingertip and you're still on welfare? Wow. Okay. Well, Amber Geiger is trying to get, she's trying to appeal right now. She's trying to get her entire case thrown out. Okay. She's trying to get her whole case thrown out and act like she didn't do anything wrong in killing Botham John. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, y'all, I'm just going to go ahead and end this live stream. So, just know that Derek Chauvin is getting a lot of privileges behind bars, and he's being protected. And we know none of the black inmates will ever get those kind of protections, but he definitely is. So, please enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, wherever you are, and we'll come together and do this again real soon. Shalom, family.